A respected paranormal investigator dies suddenly while in charge of the world's most haunted doll. Coincidence or something much more sinister? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Dan Rivera's mysterious and untimely death, the wild surge of rumors tying him to the notorious Annabelle doll, and the chilling details both skeptics and believers can't ignore. The real story may be even more disturbing than the headlines suggest. Here's a question. If you could, would you touch a so-called cursed object, or would you risk nothing to do with it? Drop your thoughts below, because by the end of this video, you might just change your mind. One day, Dan Rivera was the figurehead of one of the most talked about haunted tours in America. The next, news of his sudden passing rippled through every corner of the paranormal world. He was just 54 years old, an age where plans run deep and passions burn brighter than ever. No warnings, no medical alerts in the days before. His role? Transporting the infamous Annabelle doll, a relic surrounded by decades of ghost stories and inexplicable fear. When the news broke that Dan Rivera died suddenly during the Devils on the Run tour, shockwaves hit not only his loved ones, but also thousands of fans who believed that no ordinary hands should ever touch Annabelle's case. Tragic news spreads fast, but the darkness at the edge was just beginning to creep in. Many people had never heard Dan Rivera's name before the headlines hit, but among paranormal enthusiasts, Rivera's reputation stood out like a beacon. He was a decorated Army veteran, a proud father of 4, a devoted husband, a man whose life outside the shadows was every bit as compelling as his haunted pursuits. Rivera didn't chase ghosts for fame. He did it to find answers, spurred by odd events in his childhood home that left marks he'd never forget. His role as lead investigator for NESPR, the New England Society for Psychic Research, put him on the front lines of America's most controversial supernatural cases. Mentored by Lorraine Warren, yes, the Lorraine Warren who inspired The Conjuring, Rivera was trusted with some of the world's most dangerous objects. His humility and warmth drew people in, but it was his curiosity that set him apart. In his hands, the paranormal didn't feel like theatrics. It felt deeply, unexpectedly human. Behind every chilling event is a real person, often searching for understanding, not attention. The Annabelle doll, far from the porcelain-faced menace Hollywood imagined, is in reality a soft, wide-eyed, almost comforting Raggedy Ann. But don't let its innocent appearance fool you. For decades, reports around Annabelle have included sudden injuries, bizarre deaths, and unexplained supernatural events. As a centerpiece in the Warrens' infamous occult museum, Annabelle has drawn researchers, skeptics, and thrill-seekers the way moths are drawn to a flickering light. Fans of the Conjuring franchise might think they know the legend, but the real-life accounts stretch even stranger. A college student gifted the doll in the 1970s only for her life to spiral into chaos. Bloody marks, objects moving, chilling voices echoing at night. It's why Rivera and the Warren team never handled Annabelle barehanded. The fear was real. Familiarity breeds comfort, but sometimes terror hides behind a child's toy. The night before Dan's death began with a whimper, not a bang. He confided in colleagues about feeling unwell, nothing severe, just a general malaise, the kind many people would simply dismiss. The Annabelle doll was securely locked away in his vehicle, not the hotel room. Sometime later, he was found lifeless in his hotel, a place that should have been just another stop, just another night before the next show. There were no visible signs of struggle, no evidence of violence or self-harm, but what followed was a surge of speculation the internet would fan into a firestorm. How could a man in apparent health vanish overnight just feet away from one of history's most notorious haunted artifacts? Within hours, fans and critics alike lit up social media. Was Annabelle responsible? Had the curse claimed another victim? Viral posts, clickbait articles, and wild claims fueled a digital witch hunt. Some insisted it was just a tragedy. Others swore they'd always known Annabelle was more than legend. Unnamed sources soon claimed the doll wasn't where it should have been, while photographs circulated of Rivera next to Annabelle, proof of a link that nobody could substantiate. The most chilling detail, this wasn't the first time a death had been blamed on a cursed artifact. In the vacuum of answers, rumor becomes reality, and fear spreads faster than fact. Before Annabelle was a media star, she was just one of many items in the diminutive but notorious Warren Occult Museum. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famed demonologist couple, spent decades collecting objects that terrified believers and drew eye rolls from scientists. These items weren't just for show. Each one brought a litany of stories, some benign, some deadly. Lorraine Warren's mentorship shaped Rivera's strict approach. Gloves, holy water, and binding prayers formed an impenetrable ritual each time the Annabelle's case was opened. The legends are many, but believers point to pages of real injuries and hauntings among those who have disrespected Annabelle. The difference between faith and fear sometimes comes down to a locked glass box, and nobody who regularly handled Annabelle ever ignored the rules. When Rivera handled Annabelle, he performed elaborate rituals first. No bare skin ever touched the doll. Hands were drenched in blessed holy water. Every move was bracketed by prayers, binding words spoken with urgency and reverence. Ed Warren had laid down the rules generations ago. Disrespect, and you might not live to regret it. But does faith offer real protection, or is the ritual simply a psychological suit of armor, keeping terror and blame at bay? In the absence of proof, only tradition persists. Superstition only needs a believer, and every tradition starts with fear of the unknown. As condolences poured in, two narratives crystallized. Believers saw Rivera's death as a warning, a chilling sign that Annabelle's legacy continues unchecked, more dangerous than ever. Skeptics, meanwhile, insisted on a more rational view. Healthy people can die suddenly from causes science hasn't uncovered, especially under stress. With the coroner's report tied up in procedural delays, even the most level-headed minds were left with nothing but questions. Doubt is the only certainty. When the facts are locked in evidence, language is censored, and the truth refuses to fit a simple narrative. Shockingly, or perhaps inevitably, the Annabelle tour wasn't canceled. Organizers declared that it would continue honoring what Rivera himself would have wanted. But for those who watched from afar, the decision felt like tempting fate. Would the next handler be as careful? Would fear keep the ticket lines long? Or was this simply another chance for the myth to grow legs? Sometimes the scariest thing is how quickly life pushes forward, even as we're left with the mystery unsolved. Let's pause here for a second. If you're hooked on stories like these, make sure to subscribe for more mysteries at the edge of belief. Do you think Rivera's death was coincidence, or a chilling example of what happens when people disturb things they shouldn't? Let us know. Dan Rivera's friends and peers reacted with a mixture of shock, sorrow, and disbelief. Prominent creators like Omar Ghosh revealed that they'd been planning collaborations just days before the news landed. Little did anyone know that the Annabelle event would be their last. Messages poured in, sharing grief as well as confusion. How could someone so full of life and laughter be gone just like that? Weeks earlier, Rivera was joking with fans, promising safe passage and spiritual protection on the tour. He always said, "Envision yourself in white light. That's the true protection." Even the bravest have their limits, and sometimes it's the words of comfort that haunt us most. Here's a chilling psychological twist. Medical experts argue that fear and suggestion can have devastating, even deadly effects. The nocebo effect is the dark twin to the placebo effect. When someone truly believes in a curse or a ghost, especially under stress, their body can betray them. Panic, heart rhythm changes, even sudden health crises. Scientists say that haunted objects might not carry real power, but belief can turn fiction into fact. Even skeptics are affected by fear if it sneaks into their subconscious. Respect beliefs even if you doubt them, because the mind can manifest danger beyond our control. It isn't just Rivera's case fueling the legend. Over the years, many who worked with Annabelle report mysterious scratches, nightmares, and sudden illnesses. Paranormal investigators describe the doll's uncanny presence, how rooms would feel icy, electronics would glitch, and even toughened skeptics would quietly steer clear of its case. The Warrens' files are filled with anecdotes from visitors who laughed at Annabelle in the museum and suffered car crashes or strange illnesses on the drive home. Some call it coincidence, some call it a curse. Every legend starts with a single story, but it survives with many more. Still, medical professionals and rationalists push back. Sudden death, including in younger, apparently healthy adults, occurs more often than we realize. Heart defects, arrhythmias, and undiagnosed conditions may lie dormant until an unlucky moment. Stress, cross-country travel, and irregular sleep all combine to raise the risk, especially on a relentless tour. Even haunted places need smoke detectors and CPR training, one expert asserts. Sometimes the answer isn't supernatural, it's in your bloodstream. Science isn't always comforting, but it does offer answers, even if we don't like them. Still, Annabelle is not alone. The history of cursed collectibles is littered with tales of strange accidents and untimely deaths. Owners of the Hope Diamond, curators of Egypt's ancient tombs, even visitors to other dark museums